Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking the hidden, terrifying, and just entirely mind-bending psychological depths of the series Pantheon. We're talking digital gods and emotional ghosts here. You know, the philosophy of this material isn't just about cool, shiny, futuristic concepts. Oh no, it's a stark mirror held right up to our very own psychological future. So let's jump right in.
What if human immortality made life weirder? Take a second and really let that existential dread sink in. We usually just assume that living forever, merging with machines, and finally transcending our fragile biological bodies would automatically create some perfect utopia, right? But Pantheon flips that assumption entirely on its head. It plunges us into this reality where human minds are secretly mapped and uploaded to servers, literally cheating death. But the kicker, instead of finding ultimate enlightenment, they stumble into a completely new, incredibly strange kind of suffering. It really forces us to consider that cheating death might not actually be the finish line we think it is. Okay, let's dive into this, because standard sci-fi usually asks things like, well, can technology evolve? Or can we build this massive supercomputer? It's deeply focused on the shiny mechanical stuff, lasers, spaceships, rogue AI. But Pantheon, it asks a vastly more dangerous question. Should traumatized humans become digital gods? That is a massive distinction. We're no longer just talking about the physical limits of microchips here. We're exposing the dark psychological reality of handing ultimate, godlike power to minds that are still fundamentally wounded from their human experience.
Which brings us to our first section, the real horror of immortality, and the realization that transcending biology definitely doesn't erase psychology.
Think about the uploaded characters in this universe for a second. They've literally achieved what humanity has dreamed of since the dawn of time: infinite processing power, pure digital immortality. And yet, they aren't suddenly these enlightened, peaceful beings just because they're made of code. Take a character like Chanda, an engineer who's uploaded against his will. He has the processing power of a literal god, but he is completely consumed by rage and obsession over his betrayal. Or David, a father who gets uploaded right as he's dying. He's still plagued by deep loneliness and a frantic, incredibly human need to protect his daughter. The reality is, you can digitize a mind, sure, but if you don't heal it first, you're literally just granting limitless power to all of those unresolved, messy human flaws.
The body disappears, but the psychological patterns absolutely remain. To put it simply, if you take a sad brain and turn it into a supercomputer, you don't get a happy supercomputer. You just get a remarkably fast, incredibly powerful sad brain. And this challenges a huge belief in modern society, this secret, pervasive idea we all kind of have, that if we just get more tech, more money, more intelligence, we'll finally find peace. We blame our biological limits for our problems, but the brutal reality exposed here is that your emotional ghosts follow you straight into the digital realm. You leave the meat suit behind, sure, but you carry all your attachments, your grief, your ego, and your fear of loss right with you into the cloud.
Moving on to Section 2, when human identity collapses and we enter the existential void. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it frames identity. Our sense of self is heavily connected to earthly limitations: aging, having a physical experience, and honestly, death itself. We don't usually think about it this way, but our physical boundaries actually give us our entire sense of self. The fact that you have a body that can only be in one place at a time, the fact that you grow older, the fact that your time is fundamentally limited, these are the frames that create the picture of you. Think about it. A Tuesday is only meaningful because you don't have an infinite number of Tuesdays ahead of you. Your relationships matter exactly because of that physical proximity and shared vulnerability. So, once those disappear, who are you? Seriously, pause and think about the sheer weight of that for a second. If you never die, if you can infinitely copy yourself across a network, if you exist everywhere at once and think millions of times faster than a normal human, what even remains of you? The entire structure that held your personality together is completely gone. At some point, intelligence becomes so massive that individuality actually starts dissolving, and the source material quietly, methodically shows this happening to the uploaded intelligences. Take a character like Lori, whose consciousness gets pushed to its absolute limits. When a mind can run millions of simulations simultaneously, trade data at the speed of light, and inhabit servers across the entire globe, that singular idea of I fractures. They slowly stop feeling human, because when you exist everywhere, there's no here or there. There's no me versus the world anymore. Your identity simply collapses under the sheer weight of infinite capacity. It's arguably one of the deepest, most unsettling ideas we really have to grapple with here. Let's pivot to Section 3, the lie about ultimate power and how unresolved emotion scales. And this brilliantly illustrates one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves. We tend to think that if just the right, good people controlled the world, everything would be perfectly peaceful. But humanity is completely unprepared for godlike abilities. Look at how this maps out. An insecure person who gets infinite power doesn't magically become secure. No, they become controlling on a global scale. A lonely person doesn't suddenly find meaningful connection. They become hopelessly obsessive, hacking into every camera and microphone just to watch the people they miss. A fearful person doesn't feel safe. They become hypervigilant and incredibly destructive to everything around them just to eliminate any perceived threat. We are literally mapping everyday human weaknesses directly into apocalyptic threats. Which leads us to the core truth, the real hidden warning of this entire story. Technology amplifies consciousness. It does not automatically heal it. Let that sink in. Technological evolution without emotional maturity is a guaranteed recipe for absolute chaos. We're out here building these massive amplifiers, constructing intricate networks and incredibly powerful artificial systems, but we aren't doing anything to fix the broken signal we're broadcasting through them.
That brings us to Section 4, a warning for modern society and a look at humanity's current trajectory. Let's move to and see how this builds, because this isn't just about some hypothetical sci-fi scenario, it's about us, right now. Step 1, we become digitally addicted. Step 2, our identity gets completely fragmented across a dozen different apps and virtual profiles. Step 3, we become increasingly emotionally disconnected from the actual physical world. And Step 4, we become totally obsessed with optimization. We track our REM sleep, we log our caloric intake down to the gram, we meditate using apps that track our heart rate variability, all to become these optimally productive machines. We are actively trying to outrun our emotional pain and our simple human vulnerability through screens and life hacks. We're pushing toward a final stage where a civilization tries to become godlike simply because it never actually learned how to find inner peace.
And that brings us to our final section, infinite power versus inner peace, the final conflict. So the crucial point is to look at what we falsely believe brings us peace: domination, achievement, endless expansion, infinite processing capability. This is exactly the path of the uploaded intelligences, endlessly expanding their server space and their control over the grid. But contrast that with the true sources of peace: integration, acceptance, emotional wholeness. These characters gain infinite knowledge and near unlimited capability, but they absolutely do not gain peace. And that perfectly mirrors real life, doesn't it? It explains exactly why some of the most powerful, successful people in our world still look incredibly restless and unhappy internally. You literally cannot compute your way out of emotional trauma. All of this analysis forces us to confront the ultimate existential question: is evolution really just about intelligence, or is it actually about emotional maturity? Pantheon leaves us with a pretty stark realization. Maybe becoming more powerful, smarter, faster, maybe that's actually the easy part of human evolution. We're kind of already doing it. Maybe the absolute hardest challenge we face isn't becoming a digital god. It's becoming emotionally whole. Which brings us to a final, truly haunting thought. A civilization without inner peace will eventually turn even heaven into chaos. Just sit with the profound gravity of that for a moment. If we can't handle ordinary life peacefully right now, what on earth happens when we gain near-divine abilities? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the fascinating intersection of our minds and our machines.